The branch was gone, not closed for lunch, not temporarily shuttered. Gone. The sign was still there, faded letters, but the doors were locked and the windows were papered over. There was a small printed notice pointing people to an app and a phone number. That was it. No hours, no apology, just a suggestion to go somewhere else digitally. That's the jolt people are feeling now. Not that banking changed, it's been changing for years, but that the physical backup plan is quietly disappearing without ceremony. The place you went when something didn't make sense is no longer guaranteed to exist. I'll admit something. Last week, I opened my own bank's app to do something simple and realized I didn't understand half the options on the screen at first glance. There were menus inside menus, icons instead of words, a chatbot blinking politely in the corner. I figured it out, but there was that moment where you consider staying quiet instead of asking for help, because asking now means explaining what you don't know. That hesitation matters. It's new, or at least it feels new. Banking used to be built around a room, teller windows, deposit slips, a line that moved slowly enough to think through what you were doing before you reached the counter. You didn't need to decode much. You handed something to a person, they stamped it, and you were done. The system wasn't warm, but it was legible. You could see where to stand, who to talk to, and what step came next. Today, the room is optional. The assumption is that you'll do most things on your phone, on your time, without speaking to anyone. For banks, that's cheaper, fewer buildings, fewer staff, longer reach across more customers. For customers, it's pitched as freedom. No banker's hours, no waiting in line, no paper. But there's a gap between convenience and clarity, and that gap is where people get stuck, usually alone, staring at a screen. Branch closures accelerated quietly. Some of it was foot traffic dropping. Some of it was cost cutting. Some of it was customers proving, year after year, that they'd tolerate more screens if it meant fewer interruptions to their day. By the time anyone noticed the scale of it, the model had already shifted. Now you see it everywhere. Traditional banks shrinking their physical footprint while pushing more features into their apps, assuming comfort will follow familiarity eventually. Entirely digital banks operating without a single branch at all. Machines replacing counters, video tellers replacing desks, support routed through chat instead of across a counter. The question isn't whether this is good or bad, because that doesn't change the layout. The real question is practical. What actually replaces the branch when it's gone? People want access without dumb fees, help from a human when something breaks, and understanding without feeling behind. So instead of guessing, it's worth slowing this down and mapping what exists now. If the branch is gone, or just inconvenient enough to avoid, the replacement isn't one thing but a set of routines. Once those routines are familiar, banking stops feeling like a special trip and starts acting like utilities. Boring, reliable, and not charging extra for existing. The first stand-in for a branch is the ITM, the interactive teller machine. It looks like an ATM, but connects to a live teller on video for transfers, questions, and sometimes deposits. It isn't cozy, but it's human, and hours are often longer than old lobbies. Next is avoiding the fee trap. People get hit because they grab the closest ATM and notice the charge afterward. The fix is unglamorous. Open the bank app and use the locator as a map. Big banks show their machines, and many also rely on shared networks. Those shared networks, Allpoint, MoneyPass, Co-op, show up in drugstores, grocery stores, and convenience chains. The ATM looks generic, but the fee outcome depends on whether your bank recognizes it as in-network. Same cash, different result, based entirely on that agreement. Then there's the low-tech option that still works, debit cash back. If you're already shopping, asking for $20 or $40 back is often the simplest withdrawal. No machine, no extra stop, usually no fee. Limits apply, but as a habit it cuts ATM use. Digital banks come next. No branches doesn't mean no help. Banks like Chime, Ally, and SoFi live in the phone, use partner ATM networks, and handle support through chat or calls. The trade-off is no local desk. The benefit is fewer routine fees. For people who rarely handle cash and mostly need direct deposit, bill pay, and transfers, digital banks fit well. Everything is designed around the app. Tasks are fast, overhead is lower, and most interactions are remote by default, which suits predictable, everyday banking without much ceremony. Traditional banks like Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo work differently. They still have branches, just fewer, and they invest heavily in apps and machines. The advantage is scale and options for complex situations. The downside is paying, unless account minimums are met. When something breaks, support becomes the real test. The modern move is starting inside the app, not hunting phone numbers online. Look for support or help, then choose chat, call, or video. Video support works well for complicated issues that need conversation, not menus. This turns banking into a process instead of a destination. Use the locator before touching an ATM. Prefer fee-free networks. Take debit cash back when convenient. Know whether the bank is app-only or hybrid. These aren't tricks. They're routines that remove friction. When a human is needed, start in the app calmly instead of panicking. The tools are there, just relocated. Banking stops being a trip across town and becomes something handled in pieces, where you already are, without ceremony or surprise charges. It isn't elegant or aspirational. It's just a map. And once the map is familiar, the disappearing branch stops feeling like a trap and starts feeling like an address you no longer need to visit, because the work gets done anyway. By the time you reach this part of the conversation, the mechanics usually aren't the problem anymore. You know branches are thinner on the ground. You know the app does more than it used to. What lingers is something quieter. A sense that money became abstract without asking permission, that something solid moved and you're expected to follow without admitting it feels odd. That reaction makes sense. For a long time, competence around money looked physical. You showed up. You signed something. You spoke to a person whose job was visibly tied to a desk. When branches fade, it can feel like that competence is being tested. Not because the work is harder, but because the signals changed. The thing worth saying out loud is this. The work itself didn't get stranger. The layout did. Deposits, withdrawals, transfers, questions, corrections, same list, different doors. Once you see it that way, a lot of the pressure loosens. You're not behind. You're just walking into a building where the rooms moved. There's also a quiet pride issue mixed in. Many people don't mind learning new tools. What they mind is being treated as if they should already know them, or worse, pretending they do. That's where the hesitation comes from. Not fear of the app. Dislike of the mask. The current system doesn't actually reward pretending. It rewards clarity, knowing which ATM network your bank uses, knowing whether your bank is app-only or hybrid, knowing that support lives behind a button now, not a lobby door. Those are practical facts, not personality traits. And if it helps, this isn't the first time the furniture moved. We learned ATMs when tellers were the only option. We learned online statements when paper was default. We learned GPS while quietly ignoring it. When it insisted on a wrong turn, each time, the early discomfort felt larger than it deserved. What's different now is that the tools assume adulthood. No one is walking you through it step by step, but no one is trying to trick you either. The systems are built for scale, not hand-holding. That can feel cold until you realize it also means you get to choose your pace. There's no rule that says you have to use every feature. If you know how to deposit, withdraw without fees, and reach support when something breaks, you're functionally fluent. Everything else is optional polish. That's the part that often gets missed. Fluency isn't mastery. It's enough understanding to move without friction, enough confidence to stop guessing, enough familiarity that a closed branch doesn't feel like a personal obstacle. So the no-branch future isn't really about losing something. It's about shedding a few habits that only existed because geography once demanded them. The money didn't get slippery. It got portable. The adult move is the same one. Use what fits, ignore what doesn't, don't perform competence, practice it. We're not here to chase every change or dig in our heels. We're here to walk beside it, steady enough to notice where we're going. You're still learning. See you in the next move.